This is a Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz. Thank you for joining us. Our guest is Bob Blumenfield. He is a member of the California State Assembly. Welcome back. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you represent the San Fernando Valley,
Yes.
take frequent trips between the valley and the city. You're on the 405. You know the gridlock as well as anyone. Some good developments, though, in terms of gridlock.
Yeah, we just recently cut the ribbon on the 405 carpool lane expansion.
And that's northbound.
That's the northbound lane between the 10 and the 101.
Got it.
It's the last piece of the freeway that didn't have funding for a carpool lane. So by getting this carpool lane now, we can get all the benefits of carpooling that we weren't able to get before for the entire 405 freeway.
Well, let's talk about carpooling generally, because I'd love to carpool, but many of us don't have that opportunity. It's just logistically impossible. So explain the philosophy behind pushing these HOV lanes, and why is it seen as the nirvana of traffic flow?
I wouldn't call it the nirvana of traffic flow by any means. It's one tool in the arsenal of dealing with traffic problems.
Mm-hmm.
And MTA and other organizations can show metrics by which, when you have a carpool lane, all the traffic on the lanes tends to speed up. But particularly in the case of the 405, where it's the last remaining piece.
I see.
It makes a real big impact.
Of course, because there's carpool lanes everywhere else, so you want to keep it consistent.
If you're going from the valley to the city, the incentive is only half as much to carpool.
Of course. Okay, I understand you recently went to Washington, D.C., and I want to talk about your trip, because as we know, there's a almost $800 billion stimulus package that has passed. I understand about $30 billion is slated to go to California. Talk to us about what piece of that will be earmarked, for lack of a better term, to transportation.
Well, two different issues. The part that will be earmarked is $3.6 billion.
For transportation.
For transportation. In fact,
bad.
I was the author of co-authored with the Speaker, the implementation language for the federal stimulus bill.
So more than 10%.
Yes.
Great.
Of
the 30 billion approximations.
Yeah, and the 30 billion is actually a little higher when you add in some of the discretionary money that's out there.
Okay.
But the other issue that's exciting about transportation and relates to the Washington trip is I went to D.C. for a couple of reasons, one of which was to give voice to the state's priorities when it comes to the T-bill, which is the big federal 5-year transportation bill. It is the biggest spending in transportation that happens in the country, and it happens once every 5 years, and the federal government's marking it up this year.
So where do we want those dollars to go to here in Southern California?
Well, what the big push that I was pushing for with a couple of other legislators was to really push the areas that are going to give California more leverage, specifically areas like focusing on congestion issues. When you look at the federal formulas, most of the federal formulas we don't do that great compared to other states. But
how is that possible? I mean, we are the most gridlocked region in the country.
But when you look at some formulas like congestion and air quality, we do much better.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to urge our federal folks to put a greater emphasis on that, to try to have a dedicated fund for high-speed rail, because there's already so much money and we're so far ahead on that.
Right, there was a bond that was passed in November to create a high-speed rail between L.A. and San Francisco with some offshoots, so we can get some federal dollars added to that?
Exactly. There's that, and also in the stimulus bill, there was $8 billion put in for high-speed rail, and what we're doing is we're trying to position California to capture about $3 billion of those dollars.
What about, it's known as the subway to the sea? Mayor Villaraigosa of Los Angeles is a big proponent of that, and that basically takes us from downtown through the north sections of the west side and then all the way up into Santa Monica. How's that looking?
Well, I can't tell you exactly how that's looking. I mean, certainly that's one of the issues that the congressional folks will be talking about in terms of priorities for the T-bill. What I did as in terms of representing the whole state was not to push particular projects on this trip, but to push big ideas that will affect California. Because I was going not just as Bob Blumenfield, representative of the San Fernando Valley, I was going as the chair of the budget sub and representing the entire state assembly. So we were pushing these big ideas of how the federal government could help California, which is kind of unique. A lot of times we in the legislature never looked upstream to where the money was coming from. And one of the things that we're really focusing on now is how can we better coordinate and cooperate with our federal counterparts.
Terrific. Thanks for joining us, Bob. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
For Local Edition, I'm Brad Pomerantz.